Agents Podcast.
Okay, Lab Coat Nation, welcome back for another episode of the Lab Coat Agents podcast. And today I bring you a genius. I say that very intentionally and somewhat loosely because we've gotten to know each other very recently through a summit, I guess, a online event, which was called the Sales and Marketing Summit. And this gentleman is like a lead gen guru. He's a scientist, he's a savant, all of those things. He is the co-founder of the Real-Estate Nexus and the head of growth for the Realty Home Advisors brokerage. He is somebody you want to know in the real estate space, and we're going to talk a lot about why today. Welcome to the show, Mr. Isaiah Colton.
Thanks, Jeff. It's awesome to be on here. Thank you for speaking at our Sales and Marketing Summit. It was freaking awesome. We had 4,000 registrants, and we got great feedback from your speech. So thanks a lot.
I appreciate that, man. And let me just say this, and we'll get into this because I want you to introduce yourself first. But he said 4,000 attendees to a digital online event, which we all know in the real estate space has become extremely diluted. There's an event like every other day now since COVID. And to get 4,000 registrants, to get 4,000 participants is insanity, which is a testament to what he's so great at. And we're going to talk more about that. But Isaiah, first, let's assume most of our audience has no idea who you are. So, how'd you get started in real estate and how'd you come up in the business to where you are today?
Yeah. So I'm going to try to tell the short version, but basically in 14, I got an itch to go out on my own. I was the VP of sales and marketing for a startup, an online marketing company. And so I had a great learning experience there. We grew that startup to one of the fastest growing companies in the country. We hit the Inc. 500 within about 5 years. And so I had a lot of passion to bring some of the things that I'd learned to real estate. And so my wife actually, and I just had a baby. And I came home one day and I said, honey, I want to leave my job and I want to go partner with my buddy here and start up a brokerage. And she pretty much looked at me like I was nuts and crazy because, we were doing well for ourselves. We had bills, and the kid on the way. And she's like, no, it's not going to happen. And I said, look, how long will you give me? Give me, just put a time frame on it. How long will you give me to pull it off? I can always go back. I'm very skilled. I can always go find something in the corporate America. And so we agreed to a 6-month window, basically is all I had. I had a 6-month window to go out and make it happen. And so I had a partner, his name was Mark Picaretto at the time. And my role was basically sales and marketing operations, and I had to feed the beast. I had to go out and find ways to make sure Mark went on as many listing appointments as possible. And I went with him sometimes too. We would tag team him, and we developed a little team of 3 or 4 people within a short period of time. And it was an enlightening experience, to say the least, because obviously when you're dealing with a consumer, most of my experience was B2B, and we were dealing with consumer. So it was a little bit of a different shift. And we started out, getting excited about lead generation. So we went out and signed up to all these, different lead generation companies. And I thought that was going to help us scale and get to where we needed to go. And next thing you know, I'm looking at a $10,000 bill and I'm like, wait a second, this isn't just the only answer. We have to do other things too. Right. And so I got hyper focused on lead follow-up and lead conversion and try to fill in that gap and make sure that the client experience was kind of at the forefront of that process early on. And we developed a really strong follow-up component, and started off with me kind of playing the ISA team leader role. I was a hybrid at that time, and we started crushing it. I just was booking appointment after appointment after appointment, and literally going out on 4 or 5 appointments a day with our little team there. And then next thing you know, in our first year, we did 170 transactions. And we just blew it up. And what happened is we got the attention, and people were like, wait a second, like, what is this ISA model? No, this is 14. ISA model was already around, right? But it wasn't quite as popular as it is today. And so what ended up happening from there is I said, wait, what if I just trained more of me? And so so we decided to scale, not just with agents, but we actually scaled an ISA team within the brokerage. And it got so popular that agents started wanting to become a part of our referral program. And then the momentum, we could not stop it. So like we ended up slowing the growth of the brokerage down at first because our ISA model became so popular. And then we ended up scaling that out to 70 inside sales agents, where we were doing referrals and prospecting all over the country for an elite group of about 700 agents that we brought on that were really good at what we did. And within a 3-year period, that broker to broker referral model went from doing about $1 million in revenue the first year to almost $15 million in revenue 3 years later. And so we hit the Inc. 500. And then I woke up one day and I was absolutely exhausted. And I wasn't happy. And we were managing, I had 120 employees, and I'm like, wow, like what did we create? Right. And I think it's a lesson to everybody, because everyone gets excited about growing a big business, but you got to be careful you do it the right way. Right. And on the way up, we can maybe talk more about that. But so make a long story short, I came across some really cool technology. I wanted to become a technology first type of company. So through an exit strategy, we sold off the broker to broker referral arm of the company and began to retool and rebrand as Realty Home Advisors, and kind of scale the brokerage for a period of time for a couple of years while I was reinventing and creating Real-Estate Nexus. And so that's kind of the backstory. I know it's long, but that's kind of where I'm at today. So my passion is helping real estate agents kind of have a full scope, not just generating leads, but converting leads and making sure the client's happy along the way. So.
Okay. And let me digress for just a second. The brokerage is based out of Boca Raton, Florida, but you're in Rochester. Were you in Rochester when all this was going down in 2014, or were you in Boca? What's the connection there?
Yeah. So basically there was a merger that happened along the way with the broker, and that's how Boca happened. And a lot of it was because the broker to broker referral program was growing so fast. I needed to partner with somebody to make sure we could pull off the brokerage and the marketing company kind of simultaneously. So that's where the Boca connection comes in.
So correct me if I'm wrong, but what I hear you saying is you are like a wizard at figuring out how to make it rain, as your hat says. And if those that aren't watching this, you can see it. His hat says Rainmaker. And so it was just a logical transition to have, or to be a part of a brokerage, because this is who you're making it rain for. Is this?
That's right. That's right.
Got it.
Yep. Well said. Yep.
Got it. Okay, cool. So, all right, awesome. So here we are now, and you've now evolved. That's fascinating. And I want to talk a hell of a lot more about that, because I think a lot of ears perked up when you're saying all this stuff, because I know I'm thinking it, and I'm sure our listeners are thinking it. All right, dude, like, you're obviously the king of this. How can I equate this into my business?
Yep.
And so I know you well enough. We just met not that long ago, but we've gotten to know each other a little bit. And from what I understand, you mentioned ISAs, which that was not prevalent in 14, 15. It became really hot, I feel like 17, 18, 19. And now it's like there's company after company of ISA companies.
Yep.
You've essentially built your own in-house ISA company, correct?
Yes. Yep.
So for the brokerages that are out there so I'm trying to think of which way is the best way to go with this, is talking in terms of, and maybe both, to the broker team lead who wants to make it rain for their team. Because at the end of the day, folks, if you're a team leader or you're an individual agent, you either want to make it rain for your peeps or you want to make it rain for yourself.
Yep.
And you're going to learn something today about how to make it rain. And so I'm not sure what the perfect segue is. You probably know better than I, because you probably talk about this a lot.
Yep.
Into kind of where you are now and how this can apply to the everyday agent.
Yeah, I'd like to talk to the agent that is not messing around, if that's okay. They're really hungry to scale. They're really hungry to go to the next level. Maybe they're sitting at 30 transactions to 50 transactions, somewhere around there. That's really the client that I work with most.
Okay.
And my passion, because you at each level of your business, you come across different problems, right? Depending on where you're at. You've probably experienced it yourself. As you scale, there's different problems along the way, right? I had different problems when I had 10 employees versus when I had 50 employees versus when I had 100 employees. There's different things and systems you got to put in along the way. So for that small team, maybe you're a solo agent, you hired your first admin. One of the things that's so important is maybe a shift in thinking on how you view yourself and view your business. And maybe I can speak to that a little bit, where my conviction in our industry is that largely we're taught to kind of build our business off of a methodology that's well known called the sales funnel, right? And largely what we do is we go out and generate leads some way, shape, or form. And then what we do is we try to calculate how many leads we can convert. And then that produces a result or a transaction. And there's nothing wrong with that. For the longest period of time, I made a lot of money off of that type of model. A lot of people have. And there's nothing wrong with it. But it's very limiting, because it's very hard to build momentum with that methodology. I'm going to use that word often, that methodology. It's a method where I believe today, especially because of the pressure that Zillow's putting on the market, all the tech companies coming to the table, more competition than ever before, we have to go to the next level with our client experience. Okay. And we have to find ways to not just build a business and get transactions, but to actually put the client at the front of our business model, okay, at the center of it, I should say. And then not only focus on getting the transaction, but make that client experience so freaking amazing that they become part of our sales force. And that's how you gain momentum. And so the analogy that I've come up with is actually not my own. It comes from HubSpot, a very well-known marketing company. And they did a study on some of the greatest companies that are scaling in a meaningful way. And they're not all real estate related, but it applies to real estate. And I adopted it for my business, where basically you look to generate a lead, but when you're looking at it, you don't think of it as a funnel. You think of it as more of like a circular motion, right? And that's where the flywheel analogy comes from. And so what happens with a flywheel, for those of you that have never heard of a flywheel before, it's a mechanism that like the auto industry uses, a lot of different industries use it to create energy. And what happens is the faster the flywheel spins, the more energy that it creates. And what happens is there's a focus on removing friction. That's a key word, removing friction, to get the flywheel to spin faster. And the faster it spins, the more energy you're going to create. And that analogy goes back to our business, because if we look at our business as different friction points, right? And we're trying to get momentum, we're trying to get it going. And there's certain departments, if you will, or impact areas of our business in real estate that creates friction points that slows the business growth down, right? And largely, I'm going to break them down into 3 different buckets. There's more than this, but largely there's marketing, there's sales, and then there's service, right? Those are the 3 things that really, if all of those are working together, and then our technology, our operations, right? Our financial and legal systems, all these systems around there are really there to support the growth of our business, right? And really to support marketing, sales, and service. So what I do is, what I encourage real estate professionals that are looking to scale is take a hard look at those 3 things and ask yourself, on a scale 1 to 10, how solid is your marketing plan? And what I mean by that, I don't mean that you have an idea of how much money you want to spend, but I mean, do you have a plan like we have, where you know exactly what you're executing every single day in your marketing plan, and is it written out in a systematized format? Because if you don't, you're going to go to great seminars, you're going to listen to LabCoatAgents and hear all this awesome information, right? And then you're going to take it back, and you're going to maybe do it for a little bit.
Nothing.
Right?
Let's be honest.
Right. Maybe nothing. Or maybe it does, or maybe you try it, but it's actually going to create more of a problem because it's not fitting in with your overall business plan. And now you're going in 5 different directions trying to do too many things. And so that's number one, is taking a hard look at your marketing plan and make sure it's well mapped out. And then what you do is you use what my mentor called pig-headed discipline. You have a mindset where you're so hyper focused on making sure that marketing plan gets implemented every single day, no matter what, right? Whether you commit to doing a weekly video, or whether you commit to doing a postcard campaign, whether you commit to making 40 calls, right? And everyone's got different personalities. Everyone's got different ways to go do it. And I believe in what I call a multi-channel marketing approach. And this is kind of where I'll end the marketing piece, is if you're not using multiple channels of marketing when you're trying to convert a client, you're missing out big time right now. It's not enough just to do email. It's not enough just to do video. You have to have it all come together sequentially. And that's where you're going to get your conversion in your with your marketing efforts. It's when you're going to maximize how many people are reaching out to you.
Well, let's talk about that for one quick second.
Yep. Yes.
Because I think the first thing, so you're talking about, when we talk about marketing efforts, we're talking primarily about listings, unless you're talking about attracting buyers, but you're talking about how you're going to market a listing. Like the thing that most real estate agents probably don't have a strong enough sales pitch or elevator pitch of when they go into that listing presentation, or they're doing it digitally or whatever, that their pitch is either very antiquated, very traditional, maybe not confident, not differentiating. And so when it comes to that, and from your perspective, what do you teach an agent? Because I think a lot of agents are sitting there. If I asked, if you and I both know, if I grabbed 50 agents and said, give me your pitch right now, just go. Most are going to fumble.
Yep.
Or they're going to say just totally stupid crap, right? The typical trash.
Yep.
So
I'm going to get into that in the sales section, because that's part of the sales conversation. Perfect. If that's okay. When I'm referring to marketing, I'm referring to converting people in your database and generating leads, and making sure those leads are actually getting followed up on properly and converting, and then building an actual brand through social media, through video marketing, through text messaging campaigns. So when I say marketing, it's your whole marketing plan to generate and convert leads into appointments.
Got it.
Is what I'm referring to. Thank you for that clarification. So one of the things that so one of the things that's important is to make sure that you're not just generating leads, but you actually have a multi-channel marketing follow-up approach, right? And that's kind of what I'm referring to, is that you have essentially multiple ways to do it. You have direct mail, you have video marketing, right? You have text message, you have prospecting, right? And then you have another layer, which is really cool. It's artificial intelligence, which will actually help you do the follow-up for you. That's what I've created. I've created an artificial intelligence system backed by a 24/7 inside sales agent, where the artificial intelligence will start talking to them, having a conversation with them, and then the ISA will step in and book the appointment when it's appropriate. But you have multiple channels of marketing. And so just making sure that you're not just generating a lead, but you have a really strong follow-up system is the first part of the flywheel. So any clarification there needed?
No, I don't think so. I think that whole AI conversation opens up another can of worms of tell me more. I think that's the key right there.
Yeah. So here's the thing. If you have trouble following up yourself and being consistent with your marketing plan, then you have to find ways to what I would say, take that friction away. Because otherwise your flywheel, your business is not going to build momentum, because you're going to be paying for a lot of money for leads. Or if you're developing a team, you're going to be paying for more leads and bringing team members on. And if their follow-up's not good, then it's this massive gaping hole and cash just getting flushed and thrown out the window. And so a lot of times in marketing plan, the biggest gap is follow-up, right? As we all, we've all experienced that in some way, shape, or form. Mm-hmm. So leveraging artificial intelligence is one way to fill that gap. And there's some amazing technology, not just mine, but there's amazing technology out there right now where when it hits your CRM, you can trigger to have your AI bot start having a conversation with the buyer or the seller. and then basically warm that lead up enough for you to step in and book the appointment, or it can even book the appointment for you, like my software does. Where a lot of gaps are, though, is sometimes sometimes they want to talk to a real person, right? And if you're not there to do it right then and there, you can lose out on that opportunity. And so where I've filled in the gap is I have inside sales agents all over the country available 24/7, and they'll step into that conversation. They're watching, they get triggered, they see the conversations happening, and when it's appropriate, they'll actually step in, turn the bot off, start texting and ask them if it's okay to call, and then they'll pick up the phone, call it, and then book the appointment. And it's all happening in that environment. So it's a really cool, it's just one of the services that we offer.
And that is within what? That is within Real Estate Nexus?
Yes, that's within Real Estate Nexus. Yep.
So let me just ask this, and I'll ask this multiple times, but if I'm an agent and I'm thinking to myself, all right, dude, you don't need to say anymore. Like, I'm interested. And by the way, this isn't the only platform like this, but I think the way you articulate it and the way it's set up, it does certainly, if you have never heard of this before, climb out from the rock that you're underneath and get with it, because this is like legit stuff. Like, this is the kind of stuff, if you're driving leads, if you're doing lead gen, you cannot touch the level of service that AI can. And then when you couple it with ISAs that are 24/7, I mean, hashtag game changer. And oh, by the way, I think you guys have heard about what Zillow's trying to bash you. There's no better way to compete and combat that than this kind of stuff right here.
Yeah, and I'm glad you brought that up, because the thing is Zillow's attacking the client experience. I just watched the video last night that LabCoats did, that Tristan did, about how Zillow's attacking the client experience and how they can make the client experience better. A lot of people forget this, but your client experience starts with how good your follow-up is in the beginning of the conversation, and what you're doing on when that first lead comes in, and how good you are handling that lead in the very beginning. That's when the client experience starts, not when you land that contract. And most agents don't think about it that way. That's where the client experience starts. And so that's why we focus on sales automation first, and then adding a layer to AI next. And that's kind of your marketing piece. So that's the first component of the flywheel. So you look at this friction model, you try to take as much friction away as possible. So now you should have a bunch of appointments, right? You should be getting more appointments. So with this methodology,
let me stop you real quick.
Yep.
When it comes to the actual lead gen, though, because like the AI doesn't mean anything if you don't have a lead.
Yeah.
Do you guys support that, help with that, or do you just basically say you come in? I'm assuming you're coming in with the leads already, or how does that work?
There's a lot of great partners out there. Our conviction is the real estate industry doesn't need another lead generation company, right? So that's our conviction, because there's so many good ones out there that you can do that. I know you guys sponsor some great lead generation companies, or at least you're networked with them. My experience is that the industry doesn't have a lead generation problem; they have a follow-up problem. We just have a follow-up methodology that needs to be in place, and that's where the marketing plan comes in. It's having follow-up as a non-negotiable part of your marketing plan needs to be there, because that's where the friction is in your business. It's what's slowing it down from getting more transactions, and it starts with getting more appointments. And if you adopt this methodology, our clients usually see, or agents that I consult usually see, they can get to the point where they're doing an additional appointment or two a day from depending on how many leads they have coming in. But you can seriously bring your business to the next level by just focusing on having a strong follow-up plan.
I love it, man. Yeah, and looking at your site, like you're talking about like a Ylopo, which is a common platform.
And great company. Chime, another great company.
What about like Facebook leads, which are have become known as fairly junky, but yet still an amazing resource. But I think the reason why people consider them junky is because they have a terrible follow-up system to nurture that lead through the process, because they're also top of funnel.
Yeah, that's great. I'm glad you brought that up, because really at the end of the day, if you want a lead that's more at the bottom of the funnel,
don't we all?
Yeah,
Come
right.
on.
You're going to pay more though. And here's the thing. If your follow-up isn't good, you're going to pay more for something that's not going to convert anyway. So it's kind of like, it doesn't, no matter which way you look at it, if the follow-up's not there, you're going to pay for a lead that you're not going to convert either way. Right. And maybe you get some more low-hanging fruit. So it just barely covers the cost of doing it. Right. And you kind of justify yourself to keep doing it year over year, because you see, okay, yeah, I paid 20 grand or 50 grand a year for Zillow, and I got, and I got 10 transactions. So I guess I can justify it. But at the end of the day, number should be double for that spend if the follow-up's there. And it's the same thing with with Facebook. Yeah, you got to nurture them longer. They're further down, they're further up on the funnel. You got to nurture them longer, but look at how fast you can build your database.
Yeah.
Look how fast you can build your database for $3, $4, $5 a lead. I mean, I think it's like $8 a lead is the expectation right now. But it really kind of depends on what type of campaign you're running. But if your follow-up's there, you're going to make a killing.
Yeah.
You're going to make a killing.
Yeah. I love it. Carry on.
Cool. So the next part of the flywheel, the methodology is once you're engaging them and you're getting the appointments set up, you got to make sure you have a really good sales process in place. And this is something that I think with the advent of technology and marketing and all the cool tools that are out there and all the great techniques, I think in a lot of ways we've lost the fundamentals. And the fundamentals aren't being trained and coached and talked about enough. And those fundamentals, I've put together a 7-step methodology that I teach to agents. Usually within 3 months, their conversion skyrockets by going through the 7 steps really quickly. It's building rapport and qualifying. Number 1, building value. Number 2, creating desire, right? Desire to move forward sooner than later by maybe poking some holes in what they're thinking or speaking to their pain and motivation. Then the 4th one is making sure that you have trial closes. You're going through trial closes and you're assuming the sale, you're assuming the appointment, you're assumptive with your language, you're enrolling them. And then number 5 is make sure you have a solid ability to overcome the most common objections that you're going to get every single day, but knowing how to overcome them without being pushy or sleazy or sounding too salesy, but really doing it in a consultative way. That's number 5, overcoming objections. And then number 6 is the follow-up, is making sure that you yourself, you're not expecting technology to do all the follow-up for you, but you still have that human touch with your follow-up. And then number 7 is your metrics. If you can't track it, if you're not tracking it, you're not going to improve it. And if you really hyper focus on those 7 steps as a professional, and I have a little scorecard where I used to scale myself when it was just me, Jeff, on a scale 1 to 10. Every time I'd interact with a client in any way, I'd score myself through those 7 steps, or at least the first 5 or 6. Mm-hmm. And I'd be honest with myself on a scale 1 to 10, how much rapport did I really have with that person? How well did I qualify them and get their pain and motivation, ask the right questions? And I did that every single time religiously for like 2 years straight. And my conversion just skyrocketed. It just skyrocketed. And you get to the point where like, you don't have to even think about any scenario. You just know what you're going to say, when you're going to say it. And now you can have authentic conversations because you're in the conversation, because you're not thinking about what you have to say next. But yet you have all the psychology there.
In other words, you honed your skills. I mean,
that's right.
It's almost like becoming a better podcast host. I listened to my podcast to become better at it.
That's right. Right. If you never went back and listened to your podcast after you did it, right, your learning curve probably would have been totally different. Right. So, but as a professional, is important as the marketing is, we have to make sure that we have really good consultative professional sales skills that we're able to go out and implement, right? And so and that will speed up the flywheel even more, right?
So before you go on though, repeat those 7 steps just one more time in case anybody's taking notes and they missed something. Just go through the 7 real quick.
Absolutely. So it's building rapport and qualifying, building value,
Mhm.
what's unique about you versus other agents,
Yep.
right?
Differentiation. Yep.
Creating urgency,
Desire. Yep.
desire, yeah. And then your trial close, or assuming the appointment, your trial close. And then 5 is overcoming objections.
Mhm.
6 is follow-up. And 7 is tracking your metrics.
Mhm. Got it. Love it. And even, and I still actually think the most important point of all of that was how he explained that he went back and measured himself. How many of you agents are doing that on the regular?
Yeah, and just being honest with yourself, right? And putting yourself in an environment where you're part of good people too, that you can get honest feedback with. One of the things, that's why I created our group coaching platform for our clients. So you come on board with Real Estate Nexus, you're part of a community of people that we're going over a different part of the flywheel every day. We're going over marketing it. We do role play. We handle objections. We go through every scenario you can think of, and we use the 7 steps to kind of go through it and hone skills. And it's so cool, the stories that come out of it.
Yeah.
I just get such a kick off of it when they're like, yeah, I landed that for sale by owner. I didn't think I was going to be able to get it because of that coaching session and how you overcame that objection, Bob, I got it. And we're working together as a community. It's a really cool thing.
Do you think that too many agents are so caught up in the actual generation of the lead that they don't spend enough time focusing on what we just talked about, which is really, it's the same concept. Like Michael Phelps didn't become the best swimmer in the world because he didn't spend an ungodly amount of hours in the swimming pool, right?
Yeah,
Michael Jordan in the gym.
Yeah, I think that's where my passion comes, Jeff. Like, if you just, in a nutshell, you just said it, is that it's a lot easier to focus on lead generation because we don't have to look at ourselves, right? And we don't have to look at it. We can always say, well, it didn't work because of that. And if that didn't work, then I can just go and try that. And it doesn't force us to look at what we're doing on a daily basis, when the reality is if we don't take 150% ownership of our own results, then it's going to slow our momentum down, right? And so that's where it comes. Yeah, I would agree with you 100%, is that if we hyper focused on improving ourselves first, then we're going to maximize the tools and the technology that's available to us. But if you look at the people that are still struggling in a world where we have the most leverage ever in the history of humankind through technology and marketing, it's the people that have all the greatest tools, but they still haven't honed their craft in yet. They're not, you know what I mean? So, and just being honest with ourselves and being coachable, I would say, to what the best practices are in the industry.
Love it.
So
awesome.
So then there's kind of the final stage is when once you're honing your skills in, right? You're getting better at conversion. You're putting systems in place to make sure that you're in a place where you're creating less friction with your flywheel, so your momentum is building. And this is really, for a lot of people, what I see, that people are either really good with this part and really bad at the lead generation and conversion part, or they're really, or vice versa. Like they're great with their clients. They're great when they get a client, they give them an awesome experience, but they're not good at the front end of it, right? Or they're really good at the front end and they get the sale and they just don't think too much about the client experience, right? So it's about bringing it all together. And that's where, over the past 2 years especially, I have just really done a lot of self-reflection in my own companies, and looking at the industry as a whole, and just looking at coming from a place of providing value, contributing to people in general. And I've gone all out on the client experience, meaning like I pay my customer service people almost as much, if not more, as some of my salespeople in my corporate business. I am obsessed about the client experience. When we bring on a new agent, we just brought on a new listing agent in our expansion team, and if you look at a lot of training and a lot of training manuals, there's very little talking about the experience. That it should be their obligation to provide that experience. And so we've restructured all of our training manuals to make sure that from the first contact, they're thinking about the client experience, and trying to teach our agents to have that approach first. And so what that's, that's doing is when you create, we hear the term raving fans, right? But it's a long-term strategy. It's not you don't see the effects of this overnight. And that's why a lot of people don't stick with it, right? Because it's not as gratifying as just getting the sale. But if you stick with this method where you really just think about every point you can serve a client, a good example is, it doesn't matter what tool you use, but if you have a listing and that client should know at all times, without having to contact you with technology today, that client should know exactly what's happening with their home and what you're doing to market it and where you're at in the transaction, and they should not have to contact you.
Yeah.
I mean, as one example, right? With the way technology is today, and that is delivering a client experience. And then when you come across with that spirit of giving and reciprocity, and really try, or I should say, just wanting to add as much value as you can, I should say, then it comes back to you, and you create that client then becomes part of your sales force.
Yeah.
And if you do that, part of your team, if you do that over and over and over and over again, then that's how you build momentum in your business, because you're good at all three of them. And it is a challenge. It's not, it doesn't happen overnight, but if you want to be great and you want to not have to ever worry about Zillow or ever worry about what technology is coming your way, adopt this flywheel methodology, hyper focus on your marketing, sales, and service with the client at the center, and think of ways to constantly innovate and get better at serving the client. And you will have favor, you will have abundance, you will have wealth. It will come to you. It's going to take hard work and focus, but you will have abundance no matter what road is ahead of you, is my conviction.
I can't imagine that too many people think like that. Just that, and you've said that multiple times, have your client become a part of your sales force. We don't think like that.
Right.
And I think we do, maybe on accident, maybe not intentionally, right? Unintentionally. And so, but when you think that way, then you couple that with the conversations that are happening throughout the real estate industry right now, which at recording, we're at the very end of February. This won't come out for a little while.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe there'll be something has happened to the great Zillow by then.
Yeah.
But this isn't the end of the conversation about Zillow or whatever else is next, the Amazon, whatever, right? The iBuyer. And the reality is that those of you that are fearful for that clearly don't follow the methodology of an Isaiah Colton. And he's not the only one, but I mean, obviously what he's doing with focusing on that client experience, that is the way that you combat that. And you are not even slightly worried. And Isaiah, you and I, and we know a lot of agents that aren't even remotely worried about it. In fact, they're laughing at the thought of this. They're laughing at the commentary, but they're paying attention. They're constantly evolving. They're getting better, and they're realizing I still have an advantage over a robot, and I always will.
That's right. And that's really powerful, because a lot of people are doing, to your point, a lot of great agents are already doing a lot of what I'm talking about here today. Right. And that's largely what's made them successful. And to your point, why they're not really that afraid no matter what happens, because they're running a business how a business should be run. Right. But I just also think that there's a lot of good agents. They've made it through hustle. They've gotten to where they are through hustle. They've had success. They got some money in their bank account, but they haven't completed the circle. They haven't adopted the whole picture yet. And there's a lot of agents out there. And in my opinion, that's who I'm trying to speak to today, is you are a great agent. You provide a great service, but you're looking to go to the next level, and you're trying to figure out how to do it. And I would submit to you that if you adopt this methodology, this flywheel methodology, you're going to get there a whole lot quicker. But more importantly, you're going to have, the future is very bright for you.
Yeah, I totally agree, man. I love it. So how would you, as we're coming long on time here, how would you summarize for those that have kind of gotten lost in their own thoughts?
Yep.
How would you summarize that flywheel again so that they can go back, write down some notes? Yep. You can go to this point in the podcast and summarize it. How would you summarize it?
draw a circle.
I'm going to do it.
Yeah, draw a circle.
Yep.
And then in that circle, try to break it up into three parts, if you will. 3 even parts.
Yep.
And then in each part, write marketing, sales, and service.
Perfect.
And then on the outside of the circle, write all the gaps that you can see in your business when it comes to your marketing plan as a whole, all the things that you think are going well and what you need to work on. And then do the same thing for sales, all the things with your lead conversion, your that whole process that your own personal skills, maybe the skills of your team, write those out. Things are going well and what you need to work on. And then do the same thing with your client experience. And the third one, and all the things that you can do that in your mind that you can work on to make sure they're having a better experience, and what you can do to get your clients to come back to you and generate more referrals. And now you have a roadmap, and all you do is you take that simple piece of paper, and there's your business plan. There's your, what I would call a sales and marketing plan. And then what you do is you create projects, whether through a Trello board or whatever methodology tool that you want to use. And what you do is you map them out, and you don't take on too many projects at one time, but you methodically pick the one that you think is going to be the biggest mover for you. Every business is different. So there's not, it's not a cut and dry exercise, but whatever one you can identify that's going to be the biggest mover for you, you attack it and you go after it. And then once you've mastered that project and you got it integrated, then you go on to the next one, right? And you're slowly removing the friction points from your business. And as you move each one, you should see your transactions continue to go up along the way.
Beautiful. So if somebody wants to connect with you, and they want to, they want to cheat, they're like, you know what, this is amazing, I'm never going to follow through, I'd rather just somehow connect with Isaiah. What is the best way to do that? Where's the best places to go to learn more? Give it to us.
You can go to my website, IsaiahColton.com. That's what I would say where I keep all of the information that I talk about is at IsaiahColton.com. And then I actually give you a copy of my sales and marketing playbook.
Ooh.
You can check it out, and it's 300 pages of every method that you could possibly think of to help you along this journey of transforming your business from kind of the sales funnel methodology to creating something that's meaningful and scalable, creating a business that's scalable, has purpose, and is very profitable along the way. So you can go there. You'll have an opportunity to get my book. You can actually get it for free. You get a digital copy of it for free, along with a really cool business productivity dashboard where you can sync all of your business tools to the dashboard, and then you can just download it and have fun with it. That's, I think, the best way to communicate, and we can go from there.
Let me spell that for you. It's IsaiahColton.com. Isaiah Colton. Colton is ON.com. Dude, that is amazing. I assume they can find you on the social media if they so choose. Where's the best place to connect with you there?
Go to Facebook and type in lead conversion guy, the lead conversion guy. You'll find all my stuff pull up. That's kind of my thing. I have a really strong conviction, and that's, I think, where my passion and what I'm best at training is on lead conversion as a whole. And you'll find all sorts of stuff, videos, my webpage, a whole bunch of stuff pop up on Facebook. So
lead conversion guy on Facebook. I love it, dude. That's very appropriate. Awesome, man. Well, any parting thoughts?
No, I just want to say thanks for having me on. This is I'm very passionate about this topic because of what it's done for my life personally, but also the agents that I've seen adopt it and have it come together and see how they're able to go upgrade the car, put their kid in the college that they want to, and the nice thing is your life actually becomes less stressful once you get these systems in place, and you can do more in less time. And so that's why I'm very passionate about it, because I've seen it work and see it happen. And I just thank you for having me on to talk about it.
Absolutely, brother. This has been awesome. I feel like we probably needed another hour or two to continue talking about this.
Yep.
This is fantastic. But I think it really summarizes a place where most real estate agents need to get their head, and they need to wrap their head around it and look in the mirror and say, is this how I've been thinking? And then from there, am I maximizing the tools that I could potentially have? And they should go check out your stuff. And I need to get some of that swag that you're wearing, because I'm a swag guy. So
absolutely.
Isaiah, you're the man. I appreciate you, and look forward to continuing to collaborate together as well.
Yeah, same to you.
LabCoatAgents Podcast.